Alright, we're recording. I've got an hour of recording time on there, so I think we're good to go. Full battery and everything on my camera. How's it going, everybody? It's Carpo here. It's December 29th, 2016. The day's coming to a close here in the Portland area, Vancouver, Washington. It's about 8:30 p.m. or so, and I'm getting ready to, actually in a little bit go play a game of Yahtzee with the family. Teach my 7-year-old how to play and have the 4-year-old hang on us in the background. Trying to learn how, but maybe he will. You know, who knows. Yeah. Kids are pretty smart these days. But anyhow, all that's maybe just fodder, but that's really what I'm here to talk about. The idea of the fact that I'm aware that a lot of the stuff that I talk about is just nonsense. I should say not nonsense in the sense that it doesn't make any sense, but nonsense in the sense that it may not help you in your senses. The things that I discuss, sometimes I have videos where I'm talking about philosophers or philosophy, and other times it's about maybe car stereos, and the next time I'm like last time taking a bong hit. Everything is relevant to the moment in my life. And the experiences that I've had show me that the moments are what really matters. Even though I've known for decades about living in the now, it's only really in recent years that I've actually grasped it. Maybe even in just the last year or two, where I've really been able to bring home some of the things that I've known to be true, but that I've tried to harness and believe, truly use as tools. Because to me, things are useless unless you can actually find a use for them. I mean, that sounds pretty dumb. Yeah, I guess they're useless if you can't find a use, but they're useless unless you can find unless you can find something in your life that they're useful for. But I forgot I should mention my face paint. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing face paint. My wife bought some for New Year's Eve. In 2 days we're going to go see a Jerry Garcia birthday band. They're like a dead cover band. And they're doing a New Year's show at the Mission Theater in Portland. So we're going to go down there in a couple days for our New Year's Eve party. And she ordered these really nice eyeshadow paints and then some white paint. And so we were just kind of playing around and experimenting. Now it's all rubbing off, but it's fun. It's fun to dress up and to be, into those things, into the moment, going to concerts, going to events and shows. Just letting your freak flag fly. If it's long hair, then so be it. But when I was younger, by the time I was about 16, I had hair that was almost down to my ass. Long, flowing blonde hair. I just loved my hair. And one day when I was about 18, I decided to just cut it. My brother had cut his. He had dreadlocks, and they were all nasty. And I wanted to cut mine, and everybody was cutting their hair at that time. It had just become a hassle. We'd earned our flags, and, it was time to get rid of them. And I never regretted it, but only, 25 years later now, I'm ready to grow it back again. That's why my hair is getting a little bit longer, and it's at that stage where it's either going out or going in, because it has that natural curl. But I never wanted to deal with it because I said, image isn't that important. It doesn't matter what I look like, or, I just want it to be simple, easy to deal with. And over the years, I just haven't been able to justify that belief, because I know that we as humans, we want to feel comfortable around each other. That means we want to look good for each other. Not look good in the sense of being always attractive or always being superior or looking better than someone else. It's a matter of just looking like we want to look as individuals. Individuality is very important. And sometimes that means identifying with, say, a group. A lot of people want to look like other people that they revere and respect and admire. And that's understandable. When I was younger, I was into heavy metal culture, so I wore cut-up pants and spiked wristbands and all the things that the other guys that were into metal wore. When I was a skater, I got baggy pants and skater shirts and hats and skateboards that were like the professionals had, the other skaters had. And this is what we do, we follow certain patterns. But ultimately, what we just want to do is explore and expand our horizons and just be happy people, I guess. I like to try all kinds of different things. I actually just bought this computer here off Craigslist. Yeah. Whoops. But I went to the guy's house to buy it. And it's a pretty decent little PC. But the reason why... Oops. Paint's coming off. The reason I bought it was because... I didn't have I just have a crappy little notebook, and I needed something that would power this launch pad that I bought. So I downloaded the Ableton software, and I used to work with this Sony Acid program where I would make these cuts, and I downloaded a couple of them to YouTube, or uploaded them to YouTube, years ago. One of them is the Napoleon Dynamite remix, and another one was like a South Park, or maybe they're both the same, I don't know. I think it was South Park Napoleon mix, but... I was really into mixing and making beats and stuff because I love the experience of creating and just making music. And it's funny because I respect and admire people who can run this software. And that's why I'm kind of, segueing into this whole thing about being able to program all these beats and to make samples and loops and all that. It's respectable. It's not that I respect the rappers or people who don't make their own music, but the ones who actually put together their own music, put together their own samples and beats and actually layer it and mix it themselves. It's amazing. It takes a lot of work. Whereas I'm also a musician. I play bass guitar and drums if I want to. I'm not a great drummer, but I can keep a beat. And I love playing music. I was in a band with my brother, we were in a punk band and then like a jam band. And we recorded 3 or 4 albums between the two bands just for fun in a garage band using, our own software programs. And it's where we learned that, how to mix and match a lot of shit. But for me it was something that I just have a passion to do that faded away for a long time. And so I thought maybe if I got this software it would inspire me to make tunes again. But yeah, life's crazy like that. We get into shit and then we lose interest in it and then we get back into it again. And that's what being human's all about. It's just going with the flow. I was telling my wife a few minutes ago, I said, yeah, the more, it seems like the more that we think as humans, the more that we see the ups and downs we have, and the more frustrating, and not frustrating, but the more, I guess, we learn to just accept it and ride with it. And she said, yeah, go with the flow, basically. And I said, yeah, because that was the exact term I guess I was thinking of, but I was thinking ride the waves, ebb and flow of the tides, or going with the flow of the river. They're all the same metaphor that just mean to just learn to just live your life with whatever happens to you. And to make the best of it, you can, That people have a lot of, that, sickness and health, and it's about mental outlook more than anything. Diet's important, exercise is important, but I would say most important is mental outlook. If you really believe and you learn how to harness your own energy of your mind and your body, you can live on meager rations and still have a completely functional mind and feel healthy. Whereas some people can just never get enough. They're so stuck on the material world, whether it be eating or smoking or drinking, that it becomes something that helps them cope rather than an interesting part of life. Eating, sleeping. Some people love sleep. For me, it's kind of, I like it when I'm sleeping, obviously, but I'm doing it, trying to get good sleep, because it's an inconvenience that gets in the way. But I also understand that we need it, because without that break, you would go crazy. I understand so many things now about how the universe and why the universe does what it does, in the sense of these cycles and these ups and downs, back and forth, black and white, yin yang. It's all one realization in almost every situation I get into. I can compare it to a metaphor of yin and yang. Everything. There's a little bit of evil in every good man, and there's a little good in every evil man. All of these, these mystical metaphors, these ancient archetypes, they're all true. And I don't feel at all cheesy about talking about them, because it's one of the few things that I know to be absolutely true, is these stories that have been written, for thousands of years, that all carry the same stories, the same allegories and archetypes of, the hero, the crook. It's really it's amazing to be a human. Let me just say that. I don't know, of course, I don't know any other way to be, and I don't know anything else besides being human, but I do know that the experience itself is pretty awesome. I'm going to make sure the camera is still running here. Oh yeah. Papa's making a video. It's impossible to get quiet around this place with my mom's staying in my garage right now, and I also have my kids who, they're incessantly making noise, but that's also been a major coping mechanism for me. It's taught me so much humility, learning to deal with people. And I say people, I mean family and friends and acquaintances, and I would say enemies, but I don't really have any enemies. My whole theory is, know your enemy, because knowing what you don't like helps you to understand why you are the way you are, rather than just casting everyone else down and saying that there's something wrong with them, to rather just say that people are just people and we want to understand why they are the way they are, but never criticize, One point that I like to take away from living is to not point the finger at other people or question why they do what they do, so long as it's not harming me or anyone else. Often I'm confronted with other people's opinions or ideas that they've heard from, secondhand or from other people, and I lose patience because I'm just not interested in, opinions on something that maybe I just am not interested in. And maybe that's my stubborn nature that's I'm very selective in what I want to know and what I want to embrace. And it's because I've learned so many things in my day that I've cast out in the end when I started to realize that they were bullshit. I guess to get some of the root examples, the very base ones would be like the Illuminati conspiracies, Freemasons, aliens. The more I studied, the more I realized that there's more disinfo than real info. Doesn't mean that I've cast out conspiracies, doesn't mean that I don't believe in aliens. It just means that a lot of the stories are complete BS, and even if they are true, they don't help me in my life. For example, believing the Freemasons are the root of all problems, I never really believed it, but I'd read everyone talking all these bad things about the Freemasons. And actually, I have a Freemason apron hanging back here. I don't know if you can see it. That's from a 32nd degree Freemason lambskin, apron from the Grand Lodge out here. It was my grandfather's. And I actually didn't even know he was involved in the Freemasonry until I was into studying and learning about it. And my aunt found out and she gave me all this stuff. And I was like, wow, I got a couple of rings, and I realized how much he was into it. But anyhow, after researching, I started to see who really likes, why people dislike certain groups. They become suspicious about one another. But I'm just fascinated with it all. I guess what I'm trying to say is that don't throw anything out. Don't consider anything in your life to be, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I hate it when I can't think of just that word. Nothing in your life should be forbidden, I guess. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I'm sure it'll come up, and one of my subs will definitely post it. Nothing should be, it should be okay for a person to study anything that they want, to learn about anything they want, to research anything they want without being fearful of being embarrassed about, to others or to themselves even, about what they're looking for, I mean, we have a society where there are people who are afraid to look into occult knowledge or hidden wisdom because they're, let's say, a Christian, while at the same time they're looking at porn. The conflicts of interest, the cognitive dissonance of our society is extreme. So stop stopping yourself. Quit for keeping yourself from learning about and things that you want to learn about and embrace. And because for me, I can sit here and make a video talking about these things, and I can only say so much about it, but I'm just kind of rambling about my life. But, who am I? Some 40-year-old guy with a painted face and a beard sitting behind a camera, 41 years old, thank you, sitting behind a camera with a painted face, talking about his life. Who the fuck cares, right? Well, some people do, because they understand where I'm coming from, in the sense that we are all in this together. So many of you have brains that are deep, deep, deep thinkers who, you don't overthink, but because that's the main point I want to make, is don't overthink things. It's a waste of time. But process everything that comes your way. Don't dwell on it. And do the same with anger. Let it enter your mind, process it, and move on. And a lot of people may say, well, I don't need anger at all. Well, anger has a place. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to remain angry, but you have to get angry enough to speak out on certain issues. It has to frustrate you. Try being a parent without ever getting angry. I guess I'm going to go now. Let me see how much time I've got. Got lots of time. It's only 16 minutes. I usually try to limit myself to about 23 minutes or so. Which is all based on really only 1 or 2 times I tried to upload a video, and my camera for some reason divided it into 2. And because of that, I've always limited my videos. But maybe it's kind of more than that, like a subconscious thing. Even though I know it was probably just, by now I could probably do it. Sometimes it's hard to explain where I'm coming from, but sometimes we do things that we do because we don't realize that it's not that we can't figure out that there's a better way, it's because subconsciously we're blocking ourselves from doing that. And I was talking with my wife and my mom about this earlier, because she was talking about the Mandela effect, which is where supposedly history is remembered differently than it really was. And I won't go into the details, but it's some of the stories are interesting, but most of it just sounds like hogwash to me personally. So but to her, it's plausible. To me, it's not. It's not that it's not plausible, but that I'm more likely to believe that human memory is flawed than history or a multi-dimensional thing, because all the terms that come up are things like quantum and interdimensional, which don't mean shit to me because I've honestly researched them to no end, and what that actually means. And I realize that these dimensional planes, when you move from second to third dimension and then to fourth dimension, which may be time itself, but that if you've ever heard of a book, it's called Flatland. You should totally look into it. It's about a 2-dimensional shape that was brought to the 3-dimensional world and couldn't believe what it was seeing. But when it suggested, well, what's the 4th dimension like? The thing said, oh, you're crazy. Or no, it was a 1-dimension going into a 2-dimensional world, I think. But anyhow, it was a good metaphor for how we tend to kind of reject anything that doesn't fit our notion of what's real, and how science kind of adjusts and goes along with, okay, we're forced to change our opinions finally. Science to me is like a godsend. It's a savior. That's pretty ironic kind of use of terms, saying a godsend. Because so many people who are religious talk about how corrupt science is and how they are more religious and the scientists will back each other up. I just wanted to land offhand for a minute my opinion on this, that often it's true, that science will back each other up. However, there are millions of scientists out there who would love to prove themselves right and will at a moment's notice tear down any theory that they can prove is wrong. The problem is being able to prove it's wrong. And while science is wrong a lot of the time, it's also brought us out of the Dark Ages, where religion ruled what we believed. They ruled everything. Religion was the state. It told you what to believe. It told you what was right. And if you didn't agree, you were burned at the stake, or beheaded, or tortured, or executed, or all at once, thrown off a ship. Whatever it may be. And that was always fear-based, because they knew that if one person didn't believe in that God, then others wouldn't, and it would catch on. Because it's not that, it's not that it's contagious. Blasphemy is not contagious. It's critical thinking is contagious. And there more than a few philosophers had to move from city to city to city because they were being threatened with exile and hunted and beaten and thrown in prison for speaking how they felt. So imagine how I feel today, to be a guy in the 21st century who can sit here behind a camera and talk about all types of things that would have imprisoned me and, gotten me beaten and maimed in the past. And maybe I feel obligated to talk about them because of that. Because not enough people do. It doesn't mean I feel holier than thou because there's 100 YouTube channels that talk about stupid fucking top 20 lists and, which celebrity did this and that, or whatever can get the most views. I'm just blown away with some channels that get a couple million views within a day, and here I am plunking along talking about things that I find important, and looking at these other channels that are like mine where we talk about just, life stuff, and it's not interesting. It's not as interesting as the catch-all quick entertainment value. And I'll be honest, I'm the same way. There's not a lot of people that I sit and listen to for a long period of time. There are a few, though. But for the most part, I love the quick entertainment. I love the SciShow. Quick 5-minute, 2-minute, 3-minute science where you can learn something. And half the time it's shit I already knew, but I've even considered in the past making my own 2-minute news channel. I started one. It was called Tom Sawyer News, and then I even wanted to start a new news channel now, and I've mentioned it in a previous video. I've already lost interest. During the election I was feeling motivated, and I decided there are things more important to me than politics. I understand that a lot of decisions are made through politics, but it takes a lot of energy to really research and find out the truth about what's going on, and even then you can't really make an impact because the people who have the money have the power. And so my thing has been to just escape that, not by ignoring, closing my eyes, my ears. I pay attention, but I don't let any type of negativity or corporate greed rule how I feel about the world. Those of us sitting at home behind our computer have no reason to complain compared to those who are sitting in prison for a joint, or those who are in prison for, copyright infringement or something silly like that. The people who are made an example of. Nobody should ever be made an example of in a civilized society when it comes to court cases. Everyone should be tried equally and fairly. The very fact that we know people are made examples of shows that the system's fucked. And I just want to finish on a note of the prison system here. While talking about incarceration and those before us who were corrupt and would throw people in prison and kill them for what they believed, we live in a system, in a society where, 25%, the United States has, I believe, 25% of the world's prison population, and only 5% of the world's population. We have more prisoners than China. And it's absolutely insane, because we've turned it over to privatized prisons. And those private prison groups do not cost less than state-run prisons. Because those who say, well, private people should run it, we shouldn't have the government running those things. Well, I'll tell you that they did a study to find that those actually costed more in the end than state-run prisons because of all the corruption and problems and riots that they've had. The conditions are deplorable, the food is horrible, and they're used for corporate labor. These people, these prisoners, even if they're just in there for a joint or anything else, they're used as an example. Whatever it may be, they're forced to work for companies like Verizon or make equipment for larger companies, making outdoor equipment or volleyballs, whatever it might be, and they do it for the money in the interest of the corporations and not for the state. They're not paying back any restitution. This is all going in the money, the pocket of people who already have money, and therefore none of this is helping us as a society. It instills more fear because they convince you that we need more people in prison so they can make more money because every prisoner is $1. Sorry to throw that in as kind of a bummer at the end there, but it was just something I had to mention. I'll talk to y'all later. This video is getting pretty long, and I'm going to probably go outside and do an After Dark vid. I'll talk to y'all soon.